Welcome back in space. My name is Bernd, and today I want to showcase my first ship with a heat beam, the Eggscalibur. For damage it has 4 ion beams, which is increased by the thermal resonance lens. I also have this instead of disruptors to take down shields, but more about that later. Both of them have a very large range, so the goal of the ship is to stay at around 300 meters, which outranges most other weapons. The best damage is the one that you don't take, but in case somebody does manage to get close or has long-range weapons, there is some overclocked large shields to absorb the damage from the front. We also have point defense to deal with missiles which have a long range, and if there's multiple enemies, there's some shields on the sides. But let's go over the rest while building it. Similar to my Voodoo, I'm going to attach 4 ion beams directly to a large reactor. This means we only need one person to supply the energy and immediately save 4 crew members. We are also going to have ion prisms in the front, however those are just to target the same area. We are not actually combining the beams, which would mean 25% penalty. So we are scratching a little bit more damage out from our system here, but we also have everything exposed. That isn't really a big problem here. Let's see how we can protect it with large shields. If we have it like this, then the path to the reactor would be shortest, which is good for energy delivery, but we would have no place to connect the prisms in the front. So if we push it up one more, still doesn't connect. One more, okay, now it would connect. But if we look at the delivery path, it's a little bit longer. Instead, we could put the shield here on the side. They still combine in the front, so we are actually covering a little bit more area by pushing them one to the left. So the middle isn't protected doubly in this larger area, but we get a little bit more side protection. Then we can still use this area here to attach the crystals in the front, put a structure here. This leaves us some space for our bunk bed for the energy delivery in the front. So that immediately gives us quite a nice front section here. If we again count the energy delivery 1, 2, 3, 4, which is slightly improved from having the shield in the front here. Next up, let's use our protected frontal real estate for some backwards thrust. We also want to overclock this, because kiting backwards is quite important for this ship. You don't want the enemy to get too close. So let's also add some engine rooms here. Which also means we kind of put our sideways and forwards thrust here. Then, because we have everything overclocked here, let's put a heat pipe crossing so we can reach the engine room directly from here and extend the pipe to reach the thruster here. I think I forgot to overclock the engine room, so let's make sure that it is in place. And we have our corridor here. This also means we need some crew close by to power the shield and the engine room on the side. So crew quarter directly at the reactor. There could be a case made to have it connected here and have the entrance to the pathway. This would be a slightly faster path upwards, but it will be a longer path to the fire extinguisher in the back. And since we already have a lot of people running this path, they might get in the way here and walk into each other, so I decided to put it straight into the reactor here. Then we also have our second shield that is protecting the side, overclocked in the white mode, which perfectly fits here and perfectly surrounds everything that we want to protect on the side here. So let's add a door here, and this is the second stage, I would say, of the front. Let's add something to the middle. The last update introduced 2 new weapons. One of them is the thermal canister missile, which works similar to a radiator but shoots the heat towards your enemies instead. However, the drawback is that you need additional crew and the missile parts, so there isn't really enough space here. Instead, we are going with the second option, the thermal resonance lance. It creates a beam that will not deal damage by itself, but for shields, for armor and rooms, it will heat them up to amplify the damage, and against shields it will also amplify the damage against them or burn up the room. So, since we are using the second option, we will add some amplification pumps, which increases the effectiveness of the beam basically, and the dilation pumps would increase the radius of the heating or the increased damage against the shield itself from other weapons. However, if we run the numbers, we wouldn't really be able to boost the damage so much to make it worth it. It would maybe be better to add an additional ion beam instead, so we're going with the amplification pump instead. So the goal is to burn up the room if it is not possible to break through it with the damage that we have. So let's put the pump in here. If we would put it right up to the reactor, then we don't really have any way to get energy to those areas here, so let's pull it back one bit. Add some amplification pumps here. As you can see, they have one side where you have the entry for the door, and the other one will be where we connect the heat pipe. So that's why we put them in this orientation towards outside, so to say. Here we can add our heat pipe. It's also important to connect the shield, so we need it anyways, and then bring it into here. As you can see, the thermal resonance lamp has some connections inside, so since we don't need the side exits here for doors, which we do need down here and up here, we can use the side and connect both sides here. We also want some crossing here to put crew. Those will be mainly to power the amplifiers here, and we can also fit one in the middle here, which main job is to power the TRL itself, and they will also be distributing some power down here. Let's add some more doors and corridors. This is basically why we need this gap here, to give them access to the TRLs without having to the pumps, without having to walk through the TRL, because that would slow them down by 50%, and that is not very efficient. It also opens up the path to the fire extinguisher here. I'm quite proud that I was able to put it here in a very central location and boost it with the overclock. So that should mean that we are safe against fires if something happens. Then we can also continue here, add some thermal batteries on the side. This is basically dead space anyways, we can't really get to here conveniently, so that's perfect to put the thermal batteries. When the shields are getting hit, they can absorb the energy until we can radiate it out. Let's add 3 on each side, and we also have one up here. This is mainly to exhaust either the backwards direction or the sideways direction, so that's why we need to connect them both here. And we can also add some point defense here, and the theory is those 4 can shoot up, this one can shoot to the side. If the point defense is shooting, then the heat from the what's it called? I'm losing words. From the thrusters can be piped through the engine room because it is also overclocked. It's just increased. but in this case we kind of have to take that. But if the point defense is not shooting, then the thrusters can use this radiator here. Or if we are going backwards, then the sideways can just go to the main radiator area in the backside. As you can see, the main components are already in place, so let's add the rest. One thing that we want to overclock is our sensor array, so let's get out of mirror mode and add it on the side. This allows us to attach it to the side here and overclock it so in gas clouds we can see further. This also gives some space for point defense. 2 to the back and 1 to the side. This means in total we have 4 forwards facing, 2 sidewards and 4 in the back again. Then we also need some control room here and some crew quarters. One of them is going into the hyperdrive, so we don't really have a lot of jump capability, but it will get us everywhere we want. For the extra Hyperium we have a small storage room, or you could also store some coils or hypercoils for repairs in here. Mostly we want to have a little bit of a corridor here, so when we want to distribute the energy to the back here, we don't have to walk all the way through 50% penalty rooms. Instead here we have a little bit of a space where they can sprint basically. Add some more drawers. I think I'm also missing some up here. And I'm also missing mirror mode. Great. That's looking better. We also can add some crew quarters here in the sides, which allows them to walk in here. This is just for the operators, so they only need to go to the rooms once and then they are empty, so it's okay to have them on the side. This also gives us a space for our airlock hatch and an additional fire extinguisher. This one is not overclocked, but it's better to have some additional ones, I guess. Then we can add some armor in the back. And let's compare. Yeah, I think here some armor, and yeah, looks good. I just went over and found a few more things. So on the sides here we can add some scaffolding. Then in the area back here, let's add a fire extinguisher. We also need some doors here and here, obviously, otherwise we couldn't get through to a very large area. And yeah, let's make it so. That means we can also go over to the crew assignment. Those up here are for energy, and then we have our operators back here and on the sides. We can also assign them 1, 2, 3. Then those are for cockpit, the sensor array and the weapon here in the middle, and we do this for both of them. That way the crew will always find their space. However, as you can see, there is one crew member that is still in this one left, so let's make sure to unassign this for a moment. Make sure that this one is, oh no, the other way around. Assign this first, unassign this. That makes sure that we have one left in this room. because we will need him to power those rooms when those two guys are busy powering the TRL. Let's set that up as well. We have those crew to power the shield, engine, shield, and operate the fire extinguishers. We have those to operate the weapons and also add them to the fire extinguisher, I guess. We could also add them here if they are in those rooms. And close. As I said, the main priority of them is to power the pumps, but they can also power this TRL in the middle, especially in the start when those two that mostly want to power this are busy powering this here when the shooting starts, but mostly when the shooting starts this person will go up and down. And basically with those 7 people here, 4, 1 and 2, we can power all of the pumps, the TRL itself, the cockpit and the sensor array. Then also make sure that we have them assigned to the fire extinguishers. And that should be it. 2 things I missed. This door doesn't exist, and I also need to add everyone to the hyperjump drive. And let's also add them to the fire extinguisher in the back. Now let's test the ship. Fire everything. Maybe now you can see why I call it Excalibur. It's kind of like a sword a little bit, with some imagination, and of course the egg shape and the shell, so yeah, don't judge me. Secondly, add all of the point defenses, and let's go. As you can see, we're not running out of energy. People are supplying the rooms. Everything is firing 100%. Let's speed it up a bit. Working as needed. I forgot to turn on the lens here. As you can see, the people were just supplying the rooms back here, but now this guy is springing into action to supply the rooms in the back with a little bit of help from them. That's why the guys from the pumps kind of need to help out a little bit here, and it all balances out. Even though the path backwards is quite long, it's still possible to have 100% uptime on everything here, and that's what we want. Let's also look at the speed. 107, that is very fast. Let's turn everything off so we can hear a bit better. That's not the right one. So let's also test the backwards speed. 106. And the sideways strafe. We kind of would expect the same backward speed as forward speed because we have the same engine layout, and still 90 sidewards. That's also very good. Last thing, let's do a hyper jump at 1 times speed. Everything should be running in. And boom. Okay, we do have a little bit of a fire here. That can happen. The problem here is that when the point defense systems are firing and the backwards and sidewards engines, sometimes it doesn't really detect that, okay, this radiator is already fully occupied with the heat from the point defense systems, and it's trying to push a little bit too much heat here, even though there would be radiators and thermal batteries to soak up the heat. That is a little bit of a unfortunate thing, but most of the time, as you can see, it works. Yeah, it's not quite perfect, but maybe there will be a change later that the heat management is improved in the game's code, so then you wouldn't have to worry about this. And even in this case now, I was just firing them 100%. In most cases, your point defenses would not shoot that much, so since you already have empty space next to them, they can dissipate a little bit of heat, and that should turn out well, I hope. As a final test, let's nuke our shield, and let's see what happens. So the thermal battery is capable of taking on all of the heat at once. The crew is refilling the shield, and already at the same time the thermal batteries are empty again for the next nuke. With that, I'm at the end. I hope you enjoyed my video. I'm out. Have a nice day.